Just would love your thoughts on this. I love hearing everyone's takes, and even the analyst community is all over the place in terms of what they think could happen here.
I think, Kelly, with Elon Musk, he could do anything he wants to do. As you said, he's, worth $275 billion. So if he wants to, use some of his net worth, some 40 billion of his net worth, to buy what he doesn't own of Twitter, he can do that. If he would rather just rattle the cage, which he's very, very good at doing on Twitter, ironically enough, he can continue to do that. He can try to get board seats now that he owns so much of the company and have some real influence. So it's not clear exactly what he wants to do. It's never clear exactly what Elon Musk ever wants to do. That's part of his charm, I guess. If he wants to have influence, though, in the debate, which he does anyway without owning Twitter, I'm not sure why he needs to own Twitter. If he really wants to have influence in the debate, I mean, he can do that a lot more cheaply than buying Twitter at 40 plus billion. He could buy the New York Times for 7 or 8 billion and have some serious influence in the debate. So, I think he's just having fun, and he's already made $700 or $800 million just buying the stock and holding it. So that's a nice payday for him too.
Yeah, I was just going to ask the same thing. I mean, he's put in almost $3 billion. How much has he made today? It's $800 million for a guy who really doesn't need the money. This is tip money for him, I suppose. He has said in the past that he's, I guess, concerned about free speech and whether free speech is allowed to flourish on Twitter. What do you think he's talking about there? And if he wants to be, and he's, I guess, it's been described as a passive holding, but if he wants to be influential at Twitter on that, what would that look like?
I think he's got plenty of free speech. We have a tremendous amount of free speech in this country. I believe it's the First Amendment to the Constitution, among other places. So he's got plenty of free speech. I don't think there's much regulation of what he says on Twitter or elsewhere.
But others are critical of it. Other people who generally lean to the right have been critical of Twitter for rules that they see as inimical to their expression of free speech, correct?
No, I get that. And people are removed from Twitter because they do things that are, quote, against Twitter's, rules and regulations. Mm-hmm. Frankly, we're not allowed to call fire in a crowded theater, Tyler. So, I don't know what the equivalent of that is on Twitter, but, there does need to be some regulation of that. And, if Elon Musk is going to talk about taking Tesla private at $420 a share, fully funded on Twitter, and, he's going to get slapped by the SEC because that wasn't really true. I noticed he didn't get slapped by Twitter. So, I mean, he's got plenty of free speech.
So, William, I'm curious how you would compare this to other kind of media platforms. You mentioned the New York Times. We know Jeff Bezos bought the Washington Post. So should Twitter have done more to defend itself against the fact that someone could just snap up the shares in the free market and this easily become the largest shareholder? Or was that supposed to be, a good thing, that it wasn't run like the old media companies?
Hey, look, Kelly, I think it's great that he can buy up what he wants here and rattle the cage. He's become like a bit of an activist investor now that, Bill Ackman has decided not to be so activist in his investing strategy. That's the beauty of our free markets. That's the beauty of public companies. It's almost like, in the beauty too of, when Rupert Murdoch bought Dow Jones in the Wall Street Journal, that was basically a privately held company, and he was able to rattle the cage there and get what he wanted. With the New York Times, basically a privately held public company. I bet if he put a big enough price out there on the New York Times, he'd get the New York Times too, even though the Sulzberger family pretty much controls it. So I think this is the beautiful thing about our free market system in these public companies. If you're going to become a public company, then you absolutely either have to anticipate somebody like Elon Musk coming along and buying up 9.2% of your shares, or putting defenses in place to make it much more difficult. But that's not very shareholder friendly. So I think what Twitter has done is fine. And I think if Elon Musk wants to buy this thing, God bless him. He certainly could pretty much do it in petty cash. I don't know what he'd do with it. He certainly can't buy it through Tesla, but he could buy it, using his Tesla ownership.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.